This week on FRCmedia News, we sit down for an extensive interview with Fall River Police Chief Paul Gauvin. And it's Earth Week. That means the city's cleanup season gets underway. All this and more coming up. It's Thursday, April 20th, 2023, and this is FRCmedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. Paul Gauvin became the interim police chief of Fall River on December 7th, 2021, and was appointed to the full-time role about a year ago. We had the opportunity this week to speak with the chief on a wide variety of issues as the department continues to face the challenges of serving a Massachusetts gateway city. We begin this week's show with a portion of our conversation. Today, I am pleased to be joined by the Chief of Police in the city of Fall River, Chief Paul Gauvin. Chief, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. I know we've been wanting to do this for a while.
We've been talking about it. Good afternoon. Thank you.
So, we actually last spoke about a year ago, and looking at my files, it was, I think, later in April. You were interim chief at the time, and then you were later appointed as the full-time chief. During that time, since you were interim chief till now, what have you learned about the job that you maybe not even known about a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, to say what I learned, we could sit here and talk for hours. I've learned so many different lessons. Personally, on one side, I'm still a family man, and I have, 3 children. I have Jack, who's 17, Catherine, who's 15, and Claire, who's just 8. And so personally, it becomes into, a balance of work life and home life. And, they're each at a precious age, and I want to be there for them and their moments. So I love to work, and, I work most Saturdays. I'm here, people see me all the time. But trying to find that balance and striking the right balance so that, I'm home. I don't want to be an absent person because I'm so focused on work. And when I'm home, I want to be home. I want to be present in that moment and maybe help guide and coach my kids through their lives and hopefully for good benefit. So personally, and having the support at home, those are the big things I've learned, I think, from a personal standpoint. Work, where do we begin? There's so many things, I think, with this position. It's so unique compared to, I think, any other rung on the ladder. One of the first things I'd say here is that I've learned that you need to have good people around you. And fortunately, unfortunately, when I took over, if you remember, we had some deputies who had been here for a while, and they went out on their comp time. So, I was stuck with no deputies. I also had some influx in professional standards unit. So over the course of time, we were able to fill one of the deputies' positions. It's been over almost a year. It was a little over a year because of the interim time. So I lost some institutional knowledge and some people who knew some of the inner workings that certainly would have benefited me. But, no time to pout. I need to pivot and move on, and that's exactly what we've done. So, I was lucky to have good people around me. We've had Deputy Chief Baden Castro, who was promoted. He's doing a great job. I have Lieutenant John Martins, who's also helped tremendously with procurement and on things on the finance side. So everybody's kind of doing a little bit more than a one-person job, and from the command staff to the support staff here at the Fall River Police Department, having good people around you is extremely important. And I've been extremely fortunate to say that I've had some very good people around me, and certainly I think for the community to know that there's certainly breadth and depth of leadership here in this building. So whenever my time comes to move on, we're going to have people right behind me who are ready to take over.
I want to start asking about crime in Fall River. Yearly the department, issues crime statistics. I know the department's still working on 2022's numbers going forward. How would you characterize over the past year the levels of crime in Fall River, and from what you know, how it compares to years past? Because as you know, people like to say things about what's happening in Fall River. Oh, there's they may perceive that there's more of one type of crime than
Sure.
that they may think, and how do you view
Sure,
that?
and it's we always talk about crime and the fear of crime, and the fear of crime is certainly more important because that's what drives people's behaviors in our community. As far as crime levels, we're as far as I think the important things. I mean, there's stat numbers that we're not far off from where we were last year. Some things are better, some things are worse. My thing when we're looking at stats is looking at crime in Fall River compared to Fall River over periods of time. Where were we 2 years ago? Where were we 5 years ago? And there's certainly some areas that were up, and there's some areas that were down. So as long as it's going up and down, I think the biggest piece is to look at these individual silos, if you will, and say, well, why is this trending upward? Why is this trending downward? Is there something that's happened in the community? Is there something that we need to kind of really focus in on, or is it just a statistical anomaly?
Yeah, a lot is made about shots fired and gun violence
Sure.
in Fall River. How does that compare over the past few years?
Well, I can tell you this year we were slightly under last year's numbers.
So 22 to 21.
22 to 21. 22 we had less than 21, but not by much. Just statistically speaking, I don't think it was significant, but it was still less than. But as you mentioned, that there were some outlets who erroneously reporting that the numbers were way up. But keep in mind, this is a political year. There are already people I can see that are going to make crime an issue, and so they want to form some type of narrative prior to getting to election time. So I kind of just try to rely on the numbers that we have and go from there.
What about other forms of what's considered violent crime, assaults and battery and those type of things?
Some are up. I know this is the biggest. I think the biggest spike that we have was in regard to motor vehicle larcenies. For some reason, motor vehicle larcenies spiked. But when you start looking at our data and you start doing some data mining, you'll see that a lot of the robbery for motor vehicle larcenies. The motor vehicle larcenies were use related. So if a friend took your car, they didn't return it. There was a ton of those. Also, right tied in with ATVs and dirt bikes. There were a good number of ATVs and dirt bikes that were stolen in the area. So the more of those we have, those numbers get tripped that way as well. But if you look at, going back to what I was saying previously, if you go back 10 years and you look at motor vehicle thefts, they're almost double what we have today. So, when we start looking at crime, when we start looking at, these 5 and 10 year blocks, it becomes pretty interesting. And I just read a study recently, and they were talking about, crime and how people think about crime. And it's always nostalgic that people, as they get older, tend to think of crime as always being less than when they grew up. So they always think, oh, I was so much safer when, they're in those old days. But then when you start talking about some of the things that happen, you start to spark a little different response, and so it's a natural phenomenon, and it really correlates with fear of crime, because if you look at demographics of people who experience the highest forms of fear of crime, it's an older generation. So it kind of seemingly plays right in together, doesn't it?
I want to get into now staffing. It's been an issue for quite some time here in Fall River, and we spoke about it a year ago. Let's get some numbers. What's the current complement here in Fall River of officers?
So really, we're talking about patrol. We're at like 166. That's counting our granting positions as well. So we're 183 down to 166 to 164 to 166. So we're still about 19 short. We've kept up with retirements. The biggest thing going forward is our retirement. People hitting max retirement age is drastically going to slow down in the next 3 years. I think we're going to lose maybe 4 people who are going to hit max retirement age, 32 years and 55 years of age. So going forward, we had a great contract with the city for the patrol, which really helped stop people leaving from the middle of that pile. So it seems like police officers are going to stay here because the money is the salary is competitive with other agencies. So lateral transfers really don't seem like a really good option at this point. So I think in the next coming year, the new list, it will be established, believe in June this year. So we'll have a new fresh list, and I'm hoping that we're going to take a big chunk out of that vacancy list going forward.
I know we've talked about potential officers on that list not being as robust as it used to be. You know,
Sure.
we were talking before,
Sure,
we
it's
started here
difficult.
how it's different now, where in the past you had a lot of potential officers who could come in, but no funding for it. Now you've got the funding and less bodies.
Sure.
You know, you've been asked this before. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's there's so many different reasons, but I mean, number one is, you know, we've been getting a lot of bad press over the last, you know, eight to you know, somewhere around the 8-year mark or so. I mean, certainly with the Floyd case, it's a job that a lot of people don't want anymore. So when we used to have these robust lists of, you know, 2,000, 3,000 people on a list, you know, we're down to, you know, 60, 70 people, you know, maybe a couple hundred. But it's really pales in comparison to, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, it's really jaw-dropping.
You mentioned the new Patrolmen's Association agreement with the city. There's some incentives there as well to help retain,
Correct.
as well as part of the recruitment part. I know it's still early, but have you at least heard some interest saying, "Hey, boy, this may be different for me. I may want to consider"?
Well, I think it's certainly made it more palatable to be a police officer here in Fall River, because it is a high cost to start, especially when you're coming here to work and to have a career and to make money. And the first thing we're asking from you is to spend, you know, anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to pay for the academy and to pay for the equipment. So this program certainly makes it a lot easier to go through that process. And the other caveat there is that they sign a contract, and they're stating in that contract that they're going to stay here for 5 years. And if they leave prior to that, then they have to pay the money back.
Right. How does, you've been asked this, I believe, a number of times in terms of the weight of the lack of officers, that the full complement that you're looking for, how it's played on the rest of the rank and file and the patrolmen because of needing to fill time for people who are on vacation or get sick. How has that impacted police work in Fall River, or has it?
Well, it certainly impacts. I mean, to say that it doesn't impact the work here, I'd be lying to you. There's only one piece of pie here, and the work has to get done. So how we divide that piece between numbers of people, the community is still counting on us to do a job and do a quality job. So we've really worked really hard in increasing our numbers, especially in patrol. That's, I think, where we're hitting a very difficult spot, because a lot of our police officers were getting ordered to work extra. I mean, here are guys who are, you know, maybe getting 1 day off a week for, you know, several months in a row. And you know, so I worry about officers' well-being and burnout rate. And you know, if you tend to get tired and you start to get burnt out a little bit, you know, you tend to make more mistakes. So it has a trickle effect, a negative trickle effect. So it's certainly something that has caught my attention.
In your view, has it impacted morale at all? I'm sure people, I mean,
I'm sure.
it's logical that it would, right?
Yeah, I'm sure, especially, you know, it's especially tough, especially during contract negotiation, because, you know, and I don't fault any bargaining group, but, you know, they're going to expose, you know, the deficiencies, and they're going to talk about morale. So I think that environment in and of itself, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm glad we're done with contracts. It's been a busy year, and we've had so many different things going on, and at the same time, we've had, you know, 3 different bargaining units going. It's you know, it's tough on morale sometimes. Yeah.
And in the meantime, you know, we're in the midst of beginning construction season in Fall River in terms of road construction. You've got the city doing road work, water work, Liberty Utilities doing gas line work. There's need for those details. Again, another opportunity. Even though that's, you know, not part of an officer's shift, it's an additional commitment and overtime for those individuals. Are those being difficult to fill with Fall River police officers? And what happens when you don't have enough Fall River police officers?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, going back to, you know, the problems we have in patrol, where, you know, our personnel are working, you know, sometimes only having 1 day off for a few months in a row, especially in the summertime where we have our vacations. it gets difficult to staff all the details, and the details are plentiful. We have probably more than we've ever had, and we've have less bodies than we've ever had. So it's kind of a perfect storm. So we struggled a little bit last year to fill all the details, but we also have a program where we allow officers from other towns to come in and work our details. Once our officers have gone through the details, it then gets put out to other communities for their officers to come here and work in. So if you're driving around, you'll see other police officers from other towns working.
Right in front of you, I see one of the body-worn cameras that the department will soon be using. Give us a status update.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super happy to tell you that, you know, we've been talking about body cameras for the last full year. I know before I was here, we were talking body cameras, but officially today, Axon is here in the building, and we're training incrementally. We're training our police officers on, you know, the use and the nomenclature of the body cameras that we've purchased, that the city's purchased. So effective tomorrow, you'll start seeing police officers in the public wearing the body cams. You know, it's part of the implementation phase, so we're not going to be fully functional probably until June, maybe July. But you know, we're going to start, as we train, we're going to start using them, and hopefully it'll provide some opportunities to make a final tweak to policy or, you know, usage pieces that we have. But we're really looking forward to finally getting to that point of now finally having police officers with the camera on.
What have you learned from other communities that, again, a lot of it's going to be, I would think, contingent on actual experience when they're, you know, turned on in situations, and learning from that. But
Correct.
have you learned anything from other communities that have sort of been, I guess, the basis of a policy here in terms of how
So yeah, there's a ton of literature out there, and there's other agencies that will help you create, and you know, there's all kinds of police chief agencies that will help you know, help you create a policy. The policy here, keep in mind, was contractual, so it came out of a bargain between management and the union. So we have a good policy. I'm happy with it. But you know, talking to other chiefs in the areas that they actually have it, the police officers who have them, they love them. They've been far more beneficial for our police officers than they have been hurtful to anyone. So I'm looking forward to it, and I know, in speaking to the police officers here, they're really looking forward to putting them on and getting this program running.
You know, the basis of the work that's done in this department is obviously to serve the community. And I know that the department for years has been very in tune with working with our city neighborhood associations.
Correct.
Is that relationship still strong, one? And two, you know, how helpful have they been in terms of providing information in light of the fact of staff shortages and the like that may be beneficial to the department?
So they've been fantastic. We have an excellent relationship with our active neighborhood groups. You know, I know they were happy with the body cameras. I know Lieutenant Jason Pacheco went to several of the neighborhood meetings when we first had the pilot program, and he wore them. He was able to demonstrate and show them, you know, what the camera looked like, and and explain all the facets of the program. So the response that we got from those neighborhood groups was really positive.
And there's always an officer at the neighborhood meetings, right? They provide updates in terms of what's
Correct.
happening in those neighborhoods. For
Correct.
people
This
that-
is, yeah, we're working with them. Even though there is a manpower shortage, we're still able to make those meetings. I mean, that's to me, that's, you know, the big part of this job, is being able to listen to the citizens and what their issues are, and how do we help their quality of life in their neighborhood. What are their issues? And we do our best, especially having a police officer there. They get to know the police officer, and they're a little bit more willing to share what their issues are. It's certainly been a beneficial relationship over the course of years, and certainly this is going back many chiefs. So, you know, as far as I remember, when I got on was Frank McDonald, and I remember there were neighborhood groups back then. So It's certainly part of the police community tradition here.
You can catch our entire conversation with Chief Gavin on FRC Media Channel 95 or on our website, frmedia.org. We'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Summer Program Paraprofessional. Henry Lord Community School, located at 151 Amity Street, is looking for a full-time summer program paraprofessional to assist the teacher in daily summer classroom activities. Job number 188-18821. Quality Control Chemist, Invigen Pharmaceuticals, located at 446 North Main Street, is seeking a full-time quality control chemist responsible for conducting routine testing and other analysis in a specific group or department setting. Job number 188-15974. Assistant Store Manager, Extra Space Storage, located at 749 Quikasham Street, is looking for a part-time assistant store manager responsible for collaborating and communicating with vendors, meeting sales goals through unit rentals, unit insurance, and moving supplies. Job number 188-17166. Data Entry Clerk, Blount Fine Foods, located at 630 Current Road, is looking for a full-time data entry clerk. For more information, call 774-888-1300. Bristol Community College, located at 777 Ellsbury Street, has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. Communications Dispatcher, job number 188-21547. Teen, Behavioral and Social Science in Education, job number 188-20539. For more information about these and other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Time for an election 2023 update. Here's a list of the candidates who have obtained nomination papers thus far to run for mayor, city council, and school committee in this year's city election. For mayor, there are 5 potential candidates who have secured papers: incumbent Mayor Paul Coogan, former Mayor Sam Sutter, 2021 candidate Michael Vandal, Jordan James Sylvia, and Gabriel Amaral. 13 candidates have taken out papers thus far for city council: incumbents Linda Pereira and Brad Kilby, former councilor and current school committee member Paul Hart, former councilor and state representative David Sullivan, former school committee member Bob Pearson. Jordan James Sylvia and Gabriel Amaral also secured papers, but must decide to run for either the council or mayor. Also taking out papers are incumbent Andrew Raposo, Gloria Sadler, Joseph Salvador, and former candidates Ricky Tith, Matthew Springer, and Paulo Amaral. For school committee, incumbent Shelley Pereira and Sarah Rodrigues have taken out papers, as have 2021 candidates Colin Dias and Charles Chase Jr. Also taking out papers, Warren Alves. Completed nomination papers are due back to the elections office by June 28th. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll are slated to visit Fall River next week.
We're just going to discuss some things that are important to the city of Fall River. We want to make sure our projects, whether it's Route 79, the train, school funding, public safety, infrastructure, we're going to run down a gamut of issues with her and things we want to see if we can get done. We worked well with Baker and Polito, and so far I can honestly say we're working well with Healy and Driscoll. She had me go up to the State House, I guess a week or two ago, to testify on a bill she wanted to try to get passed. So we have a very good relationship. We talk at least once a week, and we'll keep going forward.
We'll have an update on the governor's visit on next week's show. This is Earth Week, and the city is hosting a series of cleanups this Friday and Saturday.
The 21st and the 22nd, we'll have a cleanup crews going out both days from City Hall Plaza at 1 o'clock on the 21st and at Kennedy Park Pavilion at 11 o'clock on the 22nd. And if people want to just clean their neighborhood or clean a box of streets around their house that are bad, take a rake, take a snow shovel, throw it in a bag. We'll pick it up. Just give us notice, and we'll get out there and help you. But at the same time, it's important that people invest in their community. We're not asking them to give us $2 3 8-hour days, a couple hours here, and maybe a couple hours later in the summer or early fall will make a difference in the city. And I think people that take pride in the city are going to notice that we're going to support them 100%, and hopefully it makes a dent. I think people do. Like I said, I do think people appreciate a clean city, and I think every little bit helps. And these cleanups, we're asking for people to pitch in, and we'll see what we get.
Friday's cleanup will be at the Industrial Park, while Saturday will begin at Kennedy Park, as well as at the Alfred J. Lima Quikasham River Rail Trail. The Kennedy Park event will coincide with an Arbor Day celebration that will include free tree saplings for those interested in planting a tree on their property. We will wrap up this edition of FRC Media News after this.
Welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today we have Nahara. Nahara is a 6-year-old collie mix from Puerto Rico. She's a shy little girl. We recommend older kids for her just where she is, kind of timid. She is a very laid-back, calm dog. She'd be a great companion for you. She, would love to go on walks, cuddle up next to you. She's just a really sweet, sweet girl. Like I said, she is a little timid, so older kids for her. She's okay with dogs. She's okay with other dogs. She'd be good for a single person, a couple, so older kids. So if you'd like to meet little Miss Nahara, come on down to 300 Linwood Street, Forever Paws Animal Shelter. She would love to meet you. Today we have little Mr. Tamale. Tamale is an orange tabby. He's 4 years old. We recommend no dogs for Tamale and no young children because he can be a little spicy sometimes. As you can see, he is a good boy, but he does have that spicy side every once in a while. He's a good guy to just hang out and have you chill with you. He does fine with other cats, so another cat in the home would be no problem. Like I said, no dogs for him and no small children, but other than that, he would be fine in any home. If you'd like to meet Tamale, come on down to Forever Paws Animal Shelter, 300 Linwood Street. You can give us a call at 508-677-9154. Tamale would love to meet you.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. Please visit our website at frmedia.org for all the latest news and local information. FRC Media News airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. For all of us at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next Thursday.